Greeting world, this is EJ, the Automotive Detail Innovator, and I want to cover a quick topic on buffing, and I'm gonna talk about the first type of buffers I use, and this was back in 1979, and majority of cars being that was coming from manufacturer. Well, let me back that up because I could only talk about the region that I was in. So I would say uh, some of the cars, depends on the make of the model, was going from basic enamel paint jobs to clear coat, right? When I started buffing cars in 1979, because of the era in time that I started buffing cars, the cars I was buffing didn't have clear coat on them, right? To be honest with y'all, I didn't know anything about clear coat. Even if it was cars out there that had clear coat and someone would have mentioned it to me about a car having clear coat on it, on the paint, protecting that base coat enamel paint, I wouldn't understand unless they explain it to me what the clear coat does and how it protects the base enamel paint. Now they got the wrap out where people are wrapping their cars different colors. They got the clear bra protection film. They got the protection film, paint protection film that could cover the whole car. I'm talking about the hood, the fenders, the doors, the front and back bumper, even the mirrors, if that's what you care to have done to your car and you're willing to spend the money. Back when I started detailing, buffing cars in 79, I say buffing cars in 79 because I was doing some interior cleaning of family and friend cars, but I didn't get my first car and I didn't actually start buffing or trying to buff a car till 1979. Yes, I did some hand wax to where we washed the car real good and then we go back over the paint with the applicator and some liquid wax, or maybe you use turtle wax in the can. Excuse me for a second. I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm back now. First of all, I'm not endorsing any chemicals or waxes, right? I'm not even endorsing any paint protection. I will talk about various buffers, and will give you my personal opinion on what buffer I enjoy using the most and the type of buffer I still enjoy using. But it's not an endorsement because I'm not endorsed by anybody. I'm just sharing with the viewers some of my previous knowledge. Now, today's generation says the game is sold, not told. So pay attention. I'm gonna give you some free game. I've been known to give free game because when I give free game in some kind of way, it comes back to me. It don't always come back in monetary, like in money, but it comes back in other ways. And sometimes it do come back in money. Me here standing in front of my tripod and this camera talking to y'all about what I'm gonna talk to y'all about. Maybe someone out there might see me, or because I post my videos on Facebook and YouTube. Maybe somebody might see me and say, there he go, I've been looking for that brother, man. That brother used to hook my car up. Or better yet, it might be somebody new out there, and they might say, you know, that guy sounds pretty knowledgeable. Maybe I could use him to teach and train some up-and-coming wannabe detailers. Or maybe I could use his services on my own personal vehicle. Okay, when I say liquid wax that I applied by hand before I started buffing cars out, I'm talking about a liquid wax that came in a bottle similar to this. I just found out about a month ago that the wax that I was actually using back in '79 and going forward is still being made. You know, it still has the same name. It still has the same color bottle that it was in. And if I told y'all today, most of y'all that's do-it-yourselfers would know what I'm talking about. And I'll give you a hint. I'm not talking about turtle wax. Now, I'm not dishing turtle wax, because turtle wax made some good-ass compound, right? And turtle wax have grown. Turtle wax have innovated with the times. And they're there. They're right there, from can wax to ceramic wax to other product that they carry, right? Turtle wax is still in the game. So if someone say back in the turtle wax days, maybe back in the days, some people might have saw turtle wax as a joke. But for something to last as long as turtle wax, it had to innovate with the times, change with the demands of today vehicles, right? So I used to use a sponge like this, liquid wax like this here, and cover the car. Now, bear in mind, if you're not using any kind of buffer on a car, back then, it wasn't, if the car was brand new and the paint was maintained, then yes, the liquid wax and the pad would give it a shine, right? But if the car was an older vehicle, right, and the paint was oxidized, you could put that same wax, use that same sponge, and the paint might not shine no brighter. Matter of fact, you might not be able to get that wax off if the paint that bad, because I've had that happen to me, right? So the paste wax I was talking about that was similar to waxes like turtle wax, it was in a can like these. So I just wanted to show you, when I say paste wax, I'm talking about anything that's in a can like this here. And when I started talking about liquid wax, I'm talking about a wax like this that you could use an applicator to put the wax on. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is buffing. Like I said previously, when I started buffing cars in '79, it wasn't no clear coat cars. I don't remember doing not one clear coat car from 1979, I would say, to maybe 90, when I actually started recognizing clear coat. Now, I'm not saying some of the cars I did that had clear coat and I just wasn't knowledgeable. Because, see, I was a hard-headed detailer. I didn't want to do any real research to find out what kind of paint that I was dealing with when I first started buffing cars, right? A lot of my mistakes came from trial and error. And once I made that mistake, then I tried my best not to make that mistake again. And yes, I've used my car for the subject. All the mistakes I made, most of my mistakes made from 1979 to 1984 was done on my own vehicle. That way, I didn't have to answer to nobody but myself, okay? All right, the first buffer I used was the Milwaukee. You turned it on and it just, you mashed the trigger, you plug it into the electric outlet or electric extension cord, you match the trigger and it just go. It had one speed. That speed was very extremely high, and the buffer itself felt like it weighed about 20 pounds. It was a heavy ass buffer. remind me of some of those sanders that I used the little short period in time where I worked at the shipyard as a sander, which a grinder. I used a grinder too, but that old school Milwaukee felt like a grinding tool. It was just that heavy, right? So in order to slow the speed down on the Milwaukee, a guy showed me where I had to keep playing with the triggers. You know, keep mashing the trigger, slow, slow, slow. And when I wanted to run fast, let it run fast. Now that was about the only way you could have got a scratch out of a car using a buffer. You could have wet sand and took other steps and methods before buffing the car and using a high-speed buffer that had one gear. That's all you was able to do to slow the speed down. And you can imagine you went through a lot of triggers. You went through more triggers than you went through extension cords. Okay, the second buffer I got, I bought it, it was from Makita. It was high and low. So when I got ready to buff cars, I would always buff them on low when I was trying to work the scratches out. Now, long gone is me having to play with the trigger as much. I can still play with the trigger if I needed to. If I was really trying to work a scratch out slow, I could play with the trigger, or I could just leave it on low and buff the car, right? And high was really high speed. It went from no gears to plugging it in, Milwaukee, and I'm quite sure other high-speed buffers in that era did the same thing. Maybe it was just the places I worked at that had those kind of buffers, but see, I'm talking about what I own. This is before I started working at any dealership, right? Or salons, auto detail salons. So I'm talking about the first buffer I had, I bought it used from a pawn shop. It was a Milwaukee. The second buffer I bought was a Makita. It was high and low, right? And then as time went on, I would say maybe the early 90s, I got my first veritable speed. And I liked it, the high and low Makita buffer so much that I bought a veritable speed Makita. Now with the Makita high and low that I bought that actually had 2 gears, I still got that buffer today. I've had extension cords put on it. I've had some brushes put on it, and I had gotten a rebuild, a buffer rebuild, where they replaced the inside of the buffer, the mechanism that make it run. I had to do that one time, and now I can still go back and get that buffer and buff a car out. And that buffer have been with me, if I had to guess, I would say since the early 80s, I've had this buffer. That buffer, Makita high and low buffer, traveled with me from Alabama to Georgia, from Georgia to Washington State. And I've been in Washington State 29 years. And since I've been out in Washington State, that's when I put it in the shop and had it rebuilt, okay? Now, as time went on, other veritable speeds buffer was coming out at the same time. I remember seeing a Black & Decker buffer that was veritable speed, and I was like, wow, Black & Decker got a veritable speed buffer. I never owned one, but I've used them when I was working at salons. They favored Black & Decker, and that's what they had. I haven't used another Milwaukee buffer until 2001. I was at a dealership, and that's what they had. They had 2 Milwaukees, and they wasn't even veritable speeds. I laughed at them so hard and showed them one of my personal Makita buffers, right? And when I showed them that, and I told them that's what I need to do a better job on their car, they bought 2 Makita veritable speed buffers. Okay, back to buffing. I'm gonna touch on this real quickly. Before before the DA buffer came out with the DA cutting pad, the DA finishing pad, before the dual action buffer came out. Now I got all this equipment at home, but I'm not at home. I'm doing this at work, so I'm not showing the viewers my own equipment right now, other than my Makita in this bag. This is actually mine, but my first time using a dual action buffer was last year. Now I own two. I just recently bought one last year, brand new, a 21 long throw by Adam called the Swirl Killer. I haven't used it because I bought a generic dual action buffer, and so I've been using that. And like I said, I just recently got the 21-inch dual action buffer that they call the Swirl Killer. Okay, before the dual action buffer came out, before the DA buffer came out, put this stuff back. You could take, because I know I've done this, I still do it. It still works, regardless what anyone will tell you on social media, regardless what any YouTuber that's doing videos that's talking about detailing, automotive detailing tell you. You could take a veritable speed, right here, the dial. You could take a veritable speed buffer. You got all the control because the buffer, you can turn it up high as you want, low as you want, right? Low when you are buffing out scratches. You can work it low like that for a while, and then as you need to increase the speed, you can increase the speed, or you can decrease the speed. Okay, I've taken, and I started doing this in the middle 90s, right? Because I was still playing around trying to find the best results, the best way to get the best results buffing dark colored vehicles. My experience on performing exterior buff jobs on darker colored vehicles and getting rid of the swirls, it took me a while to be able to master that. That is not something that I learned right away. Like I said, I started buffing in 1979. If I had to say, I didn't learn how to master getting swirls out of a car, out of any vehicle that had dark paint. I probably shouldn't even say this, but I'm gonna say it. It had to be 94, right? I could have learned a lot sooner if I did research. You got to bear in mind, it wasn't on social media. So I couldn't go on YouTube. I couldn't ask Google anything. I would have actually had to put in the work to try to learn. Now, I probably could have asked the people that sold automotive care, car care product what I needed to do, and they could have recommended me some different types of creams to use to help me take out the squirrels. But I didn't do that. I asked a couple professional detailers at different dealerships I worked what was the secret, and it was always the same answer. You get paid to perform automotive detail just like I do. You need to figure that one out on your own, right? Which I ended up figuring it out on my own. I'm gonna tell you what I did. Okay, I would take, you could take, before the DA, before the dual action buffer, the orbital buffer was around, and I got one of those too, one of the old school with the iron cast it's in an iron, it's the material made out of iron cast, right? It's really made of metal, big heavy son of a gun. All right, you could take a high-speed buffer with a wool pad, some cutting cream, and do your first step. You could switch after doing your first cut, exterior cut, buffing cut, whatever you want to call it, right? There's several names you can call it. You can turn right back around, take this finishing or polishing pad, put it on the high speed, switch up your cream. A lot of people rather go with polish after they buffed out a dark car, but me, I would say polish for last. I'm going over my second step after doing a heavy cut using cutting cream and a wool pad. I'm going with some glaze, right? I am trying to get the mirror shine, so I'm going with the glaze. After going over it with the glaze, then if I want to, I could give it a hand wax with paste wax. I could give it a hand wax with the liquid wax that I showed you, or something. I showed y'all something similar, or I could buff this in the paint using the same foam pad. At one time, the high-speed buffer was able to do everything you needed it to do if it was doable. Some cars, regardless of what technique you learn that you perform, it's just not going to work for that particular car. So I wanted you to know that. Now you got, like I said, you got the dual action buffer, you got the DA buffer, you got all these different buffers coming out, and it's targeted to tap into the automotive industry, detailing industry, the appearances of cars, and they making a good profit. Now I'm not saying they're not good to have. Everything I just showed you, I got 2 DAs, I got about 6 Makita buffers, I got 2 dual action buffers. I'm not saying you don't need them, right? I got them, right? I got them just in case I need them. But I'm just trying to make a point to where before all that stuff came about, only thing you needed was a high-speed buffer with a wool pad, cutting cream, some glaze, some polish, and you could make it work. Worst case, you could have used the orbital with your polish, or the orbital with your glaze, and not even have to worry about using the high speed, right? Now they got the foam cutting pad. The foam cutting pad is cool. I've used them. I'm not a great fan of them, but they do work. The reason why I'm not a great fan on them is I didn't learn on them. When I learned how to buff, I used the wool pad, and what I don't really like about them is that when I'm using this foam pad gets so hot that I need to have a spray bottle to mist the area that I'm working on when I put the chemical on, or mist that area, put the chemical on, then buff. Because if I don't pre-mist the area, it's a good possibility you could burn paint. It's easier to burn paint with a cutting foam pad than it is a wool pad. That's just my opinion. That's one of the main reasons why I don't use them, right? Because sometimes what I do when it comes down to buffing cars is repetition. I've done it so much that my mind been on a million things that I can still get a buff job right. But when I'm using a foam cutting pad, gotta actually be alert. I gotta actually pay attention like I'm a damn beginner. Now something else to bear in mind, a lot of the today, let me see what time it is. Okay, a lot of today's pads have inside the pad what they do. You know, you can't really see in this no more, but at one time it said wool cutting pad. Let me look at this yellow foam pad and see if it said Because a lot of the past will tell you what they do. If they don't tell you right then what they do, maybe in the actual wrapper that it come in, might tell you. But they'll tell you what they do. Same thing about the waxes. You might have to read them, but it'll tell you what to do. Okay, before I go, I want to share an experience with y'all right quick. I bought some swirl remover from a chemical place. This was a place that came out of that was a place that I never used before. He came by the shop. He was trying to sell me something, and he was such a good salesman. I just said, what the hell? I got to get this guy out of here. Saying no, or I don't need anything, or showing him the chemicals and the waxes that I'm already using, it's not good enough for this guy. This guy's almost refusing to take no for an answer. And I kind of admired that, even though it was aggravating me. I admired his hustling ability, his skills to explain what his product did, right? To the point where he wasn't gonna leave unless I bought something. So I bought a gallon of swirl remover from him. All right. I put it in the back of all my other chemicals because I wasn't planning on using it. I just bought it for him to where he could go away. So I'm buffing cars, and somewhere down the line, I allowed the swirl remover that I actually was fond of run out. I don't know how. I should have known every time I picked up the jug to fill up my bottles. I should have known it was getting light, right? But hell, I was working 7 days a week, sometimes 6 hours a day, and I made a mistake, right? I just didn't keep up with it. Can't blame nobody but me, because at the time, I was the only person at my shop buffing out cars. So it was my mistake, nobody else's mistake. So I'm like, damn, man. Then I thought about the product I got from the guy, the swirl remover. I move stuff to the side in the cabin, I get it out. I'm using it on a black car. I pull the car outside, I can still see the swirls. I'm buffing the hood, right? I'm buffing the hood first just to see if this chemical works, because I never used it. So I pulled the car back inside and went back over again with the product he sold me for swirls, pulled it back out, and swirls are still there. Now I'm kind of furious. I'm like, I knew this damn stuff wasn't no damn good. I shouldn't have never even bought it. I shouldn't have never let him sell me. What did you expect? He's a salesman. His job is to sell you. So I'm all cheeked off about it. So I pulled the car back in the shop, closed the doors down. I go up on the damn highway, and I'm going to places like, at this time, this was years ago. This was in 2000, 2001, something like that. So all the places I am trying, I'm reading what they say they product do, and I'm asking myself, which one of these products gonna actually do what I needed to do? Now, the product that I had been using, the lady that brought me the product, my chemical lady, wasn't coming to work till Tuesday. And then she came to visit me every Tuesday, right? So this was over a weekend. If I'm not mistaken, it was on a Saturday. So I didn't know what I was gonna do. I bought a couple swirl removers that I thought would work. I went back, I did the same process, did a little buffing on the hood, pulled the car back out, see swirls, did it again, pulled the car back out, I see swirls. Then I switched up to the other swirl remover I bought from the same place when I went to the store to buy swirl remover. I tried that twice, repeated the same step, the same damn thing, man. I'm like, man, it's almost looking like I'm not gonna be able to get this customer's car back today because it don't look the way it needed to look, because I had did a very heavy cut. And I told myself, okay, this guy said this product that he sold me really works. I tried it twice on the hood and it didn't work. but it gotta work. Something gotta work. So then I grabbed the jug and I looked on the back, and it doesn't tell. Some chemicals will tell you that it's best to use in temperature no higher than 72 degrees. It might say in the shade or something like that. Then it might say don't use if it's 50 below, because the paint is cold and the chemical might not react to the cold weather right. But I learned how to get around that. If it say the car need to be at about 52, I start the car up and let it run for about 20 minutes. And the body get hot on the car when you let it run that long. Then I turn around and use it, and I didn't have no problem. So I said, okay, I'm gonna make this stuff work. As I'm bumping, I'm playing with my dial on the back of my buffer. I'm dialing it down, I'm bumping, I'm dialing it down. I pull it out, and the swirls are gone. That's when I realized the chemical did work. It just didn't tell me on the back of the bottle, on the directions on how to use it, and he didn't tell me that I had to turn my RPM down to a certain level to buff the car to get the best results. I found that after almost panicking. I found that out after getting in my car, going to a place and buying some more product. That product he sold me ended up being the best product that I had used. It was better than what I was getting from the lady that was coming to see me. The only thing was wrong, it didn't tell me how to use it. In directions on how to use, it said nothing about temperature. It said nothing about RPMs. I was fortunate enough, even though I was panicking because I was running out of options, to damn figure that out on my own. Now when I buy any kind of chemical I never used before, no. Let me back up, not buy. When I go to look at, or someone try to sell me chemicals, I look at the back to see what the directions have to say. And then to make sure that I'm reading right, I ask the salesman that's selling the product. And if he can't tell me, 9 times out of 10, I won't buy it unless he tell me if it don't work, I can give it back to him. Just don't use it out. Okay, this is EJ. I just wanted to share that with you, and I wanted to let you know, let the viewers know, regardless what kind of video, regardless what people tell you, I don't see the high speed, what they call in rotary buffer, going away no time soon. It was, I want to say it was around before I was born, but I feel safer saying it was around in the 70s, because that's when I started using a high-speed buffer. Over the years, they have gotten better. They have innovated with the times. Now, me, myself, it makes me look more professional, and I say I'm an innovator. When you tell a person you're an innovator, to me, that means you change with the time. You adapt. You really know what's going on. So since I consider myself an innovator, it's to my best advantage to have every up-to-date piece of equipment that I need to make me look like a professional. And I am a professional. This is EJ. Have a great day. Peace.